Today is September the 8th, 2022. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program, and I'm in Tulsa today to speak with Nicole Watts, a civil engineer and certified floodplain manager with Wallace Design Collective. As I understand it, you joined this firm in 2020.
Yep.
So we'll get into that in just a little bit. And this is going to be part of our collection called STEM Areas and Women Oral History Project. So thank you for meeting with me today.
You're welcome.
Before we get into your work, let's learn a little bit about you. Start wherever you like.
Okay. I have been an engineer for over 20 years, and I have been married for almost 15 years. We have two little kids. Well, not little. They are, 10 and 12 now. So they're still growing, keeping us very busy, but, both active in sports and everything like that. So keeping us very busy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your childhood. Were you hometown, that sort of thing?
So I was born in London, Ontario, Canada. My whole family is Canadian. When I was 5, my dad got a job down in Ohio, and so we moved to the States when I was 5 with my brother, who was 6 months old, and grew up in Springfield, Ohio, which is a small little community between Dayton and Columbus off of 70. So a lot of cornfields, a lot of dairy farms, very small. And then we moved to Tulsa my sophomore year in high school. Hard time to move, very different, areas of the country and everything like that. So graduated from Jinx, Oklahoma, Jinx High School, and then went to University of Missouri in Columbia for college.
Okay. So it's back in high school. What was your favorite subject?
It was probably history, social studies. Yep, loved it.
And were you involved in any extracurricular activities?
Lot of, Key Club, all the different, math clubs, different stuff like that. Did a lot of volunteering through high school.
So when you were graduating, what was your long-term career plan at that point?
So when I was graduating, I wanted to go do poli-sci and become an attorney.
Okay.
Yes, my dad did not like that idea. So when I was graduating and wanted to do that, he said the only way I will pay for your college is if you go to do engineering. So he was a mechanical engineer and he just thought that was the best way to go, and so kind of directed me in that path.
Okay, so that explains the engineering aspect of things, I guess.
Yes.
How about the civil engineering part of that?
So when I went to college, I started as a mechanical engineer, just like him. My freshman year, I hated it. I hated thermodynamics. I hated anything about it. So I decided to change my major. I liked civil. I liked building things. I kind of thought that was interesting. It made sense to me. So changed my major my sophomore year in college, and didn't look back after that.
Well, then being connected to OSU, I have to ask why not OSU and the other, because we have an engineering program.
And I was still young to Oklahoma, when I started looking at colleges, and I went on a tour to OSU, and there was a building that had poultry on it. I remember that, and I'm like, I cannot go to some place that has poultry on the building. So most of my colleges that I applied to were, back in the Northeast. I applied to, Ohio State, Michigan, Purdue, A&M, and a few other, and then Mizzou was the closest to home that I got accepted to, but not too close, so it was 6 hours, but I still liked it. But I was really looking at going back home, back to Ohio area, when I was looking at colleges.
In the University of Cincinnati, I don't know if they have an engineering program.
I don't know, but no, I grew up as a Buckeye. I was, really thinking about going back to
the other OSU.
The other OSU.
That's where they dot the I with the tuba player, right?
Uh-huh.
At halftime.
Yep. So but it was just, it was just too far from, home.
So out of state tuition, did you have a scholarship or
going
through or what?
I had scholarships going through, and was lucky that my parents were able to, help. Then after my freshman year, I just stayed up in Missouri the whole time, so I got in-state tuition after that, so that helped too. And all that, I worked all the way through college and, helped out.
Was there a strong female figure in all of that?
I mean, it was it's amazing, growing up, I never once thought, just because I was a female, that it was an issue to go do engineering or anything. I never, I guess back in the, 90s, it wasn't a big push to get, women into, the engineering or the science degrees. And so it just never even crossed my mind that I couldn't do it just like the rest of, the guys could do it. I never thought once that, that there would be an issue with that. So, I just trudged along to, Mizzou, and usually I was maybe one or two, females in class, and I never once thought different about it. That's just how it was.
Did you notice if your classmates treated you any differently?
They didn't. I mean, I've got a strong personality, and I never once felt, different. I never felt like that they treated me differently. I was just, we were just part of it, and we were all trying to get through classes together and, survive. So I never felt different.
Any female professors in the program itself?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of slow to come, isn't it?
It is slow to come. I mean, it's, I never even thought of that, but yeah, no, it was all males.
Well, was there a class that just about ate your lunch?
It was physics, physics about, graded on a curve. And if you got like 20 or 30, you usually would pass the class. That was about it. If you knew you can get through physics, then you would be okay with everything else.
Did you have to do it more than once? I mean, like physics 1, 2, and 3, or just one?
There was two.
Oh.
So we knew 2 semesters if you can get through it. It was kind of a joke, but we can get through it, be okay. But
and then calculus, I guess, is part of it.
Yeah, I had three, Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, trigonometry and, Diffie-Q. And I think by the time you get through engineering, I think we were one class away from having a minor in math. So
that's good to fall back on.
It is good to fall back on. I don't know what you do with it, but yeah.
Teach high school, yeah.
Exactly.
Did you have physics in high school?
I did.
So that helped maybe a little bit?
A little bit. I took a lot of AP classes in high school and everything too. So yeah, I was at least accustomed to, seeing things when I went to college.
Well, did you take yourself to college, or did parents take you and drop you off?
Oh, they took, we all, caravanned up there and, moved into the dorm, and they took us, my brother was with us. And so, yeah, it was a little daunting. Didn't know a single person there, out there. Nobody from, Jinx went there. So just kind of dropped me off, and they just turned around and went back home.
I think they're yellow and
black. Mm-hmm. Gold and black. Yeah.
6 hours is not that.
It wasn't bad.
Hard. It's manageable.
It was, I can come home for a weekend if I wanted to, but it wasn't close enough where parents could be like, hey, we're dropping in this weekend kind of thing. Had a little bit of space, but, but still I was able to come home if I wanted to.
Had to learn to manage a budget and
yes,
do your own laundry.
Do their own laundry, learn to cook, I never did any of that until I went away.
Did you have your own car?
I did. So I was lucky that I had my own car, so I was able to kind of drive around and take care of myself that way.
Okay. So did you do internships in that program? I
So
do it not.
So most good students probably did, internships in engineering. I bartended and I waited tables all the way through college. So, it was good money. It was, I had a good time and all of that, but definitely did not do the internship route. So when I graduated college, it was the first time I actually went into an engineering office.
What, did you have difficulty getting your first job?
No, I didn't. There was a lot of, people who were hiring, and it was just trying to decide, did I want to stay in, Missouri, if I wanted to go to St. Louis, Kansas City, or if I wanted to come home. So, that was more of the challenge of where did I want to move to.
So we probably need to get some dates in here. When did you graduate from high school?
95.
And then there would have been.
I would have graduated in 99, May of 99 and from Mizzou. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then your first job would have been in 95?
In 99.
99?
Yep.
Back here?
Yep.
Oh,
So
in
like
Oklahoma, rather.
in Oklahoma, yeah, June or July of 99. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then take us through career from that point.
Sure.
Just as, you know.
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I moved back home and started with DeShazo Tong and Associates. It was a small firm in Tulsa, based out of Dallas, Texas. They did a lot of, in Texas, they did a lot of traffic analysis, traffic studies. In the Tulsa office, they did mostly highway and road projects, ODOT, City of Tulsa, or different, highway expansions that way. So I started there. My first project was winding a highway for a couple of miles for ODOT, and I think I worked on that project for 2 years. It was
for 2 miles.
For so highway and public projects, they take a long time, and so I did that for a couple of years, and then started doing smaller site development work, commercial work, worked on like quick trips and RVs and other smaller things, and enjoyed that a lot more. Definitely like more of the fast paced work, definitely work on a project for a month or two, and it moves on. You go, you work on multiple ones instead of like the same project for a year, And so really grew that department a lot when I was at DeShazo. I was with DeShazo for 11 years there. And so by the time I left, had a lot of, commercial projects under, belt, and a lot of clients and all of that, and did everything. Engineering is just not, civil engineering is, when I tell people, it's the unsexy part of a project. It's not the glamorous, building that you see that an architect will do or anything like that. Usually it's the stuff that's underneath the ground, but it's the important stuff, like how does a site drain? How do you handle your water and your sewer and all of that? Also have to work on zoning aspects and dealing with the city boards. I do a lot of presentations to the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment and city councilors. And that's just part of it as well, so it's just not just one thing. It's like the whole aspect of trying to get a project from start to finish.
Civil engineer, for those who don't know, you just automatically think bridges.
Yes. No, and some civil engineers do that. I could not do that, but it's, bridges, highways, streets, but it's also, everything outside of a building that, that you don't even think about. How does your parking lot drain? How does your parking lot even lay out? When we do schools, you think of traffic flow. Where do buses drop off and pick up? How do the parents interact? Do you keep the parents and the buses separate? And how do the kids flow? And, all of that, traffic stuff you got to take into account as well.
What does the architect take input from you very well?
Yes,
well, most of the time?
And a lot of times, and I think, it's more of a team effort how I attack it. After DeShazo, I went to KKT Architects, and I was their director of civil engineering for 8 years. And so I actually started the department with them and was in-house for 8 years. So it was working with the architects day in, day out, side by side. And, when they start looking at a project, they would bring me in a lot earlier and just say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Will this work, or what is, and they always called me the Debbie Downer in the office, because they would come bring me the project and I would be like, well, you can't do that because of this. But, if we're hitting it, on early and working as a team, it would help the client in the long run, because we weren't having to redesign things, delay in projects, because we would, find out the problems and the issues at the beginning instead of halfway through design.
Well, here in Oklahoma, it's that extreme weather events that happen.
Yes.
The downpours.
Yes. When it's raining heavily, that's when I usually drive around and make sure that my designs are working. My husband laughs at me because I'm like, oh, it's pouring. Let's go look at this new detention pond to make sure that it's functioning how it's supposed to. He's like, you're such a nerd. But, that's when we always, on heavy down, especially, when there's really big ones, you kind of hold your breath and go, I hope I don't get a call from somebody that, somebody was flooded or, whatever. And that's when, if the phone's quiet, you've done good.
Well, and if it's not, what do you have to do? what would be your response?
If something came, you would
Yeah.
go out there and, try to figure out what happened, why, what things happened, how to fix things. We had a project one time where it was brand new, multi-million, dollar building. And after 2 rains, the first floor flooded both times. And we're going, how in the world, why is this, brand new building, flooding? And we would go out there, we would walk, have to do site investigations. Finally figured out that the downspouts, that the pipes that the downspouts were tied into during construction, they got compacted by a contractor. And so when it rained and all the downspouts were collecting and it tried to get to the pipe and it was, crushed, the water backed up into the building. Mm-hmm. So, but it took a while and some, time to investigate it all to figure out, was it something we designed? Was it something that the contractor did? Or, force of nature kind of thing? And
so you could end up in court.
Yeah, you would hope not to, but you can always,
That's,
it's, that's why, the public safety is our number one concern. When we design things, when we look at things, the public safety is what we have to take into account.
I mean, and like earthquakes and
Mm-hmm.
tornadoes here,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, there are things, and that's more structural, design, like, but they have to take into account, a certain amount for, snow loads and, speeds for tornadoes, and more definitely like California with the earthquakes and stuff, but there's different things you have to take into account for different areas of the country.
So I would think in your road construction, it would have been like the slope, or like you make a turn, or
Mm-hmm.
what degree that would be.
Yeah, I mean, there's regs, there's regulations for everything, definitely, if you're designing a road, depending on your speed, it depends how much your curve can be. The slower the speed, the tighter your curve. The higher the speed on a, interstate, it has to be a lot less of a curve to, for people to navigate. Mm-hmm. When you're designing a driveway, you've got to make sure that the site triangles, people can see. If you look at the slopes of the roads, to make sure that you're not sitting at the top of a hill. So if somebody's coming up this way, you can't, people can't see until they turn out. You don't place trees or you don't place signs in site triangles when people are trying to turn out, that it's all open that way too.
A lot of things to think about.
A lot of things, yeah.
I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they had what we called malfunction junction.
Uh-huh.
Interstate I-40 and 75 came together.
Yeah.
And it was awful. And they finally ended up having to just redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that would be something that would fall into.
Yeah, that'd be a civil
engineer.
civil engineers, they do all the traffic and that design.
I'm thinking Legos wouldn't come in as important in civil as it would in structure.
Right. No, that's true.
Thinking of that, so you didn't mention that, so
yeah,
just where my mind goes, I guess.
Yep. No, that's definitely structural, architectural, kind of.
But you have to understand some of that.
You do, and I learned a ton working at an architect's office for so long of their mindset or how they attack a project and everything, and trying to make sure that we still can do what they want to do and what a client wants to do, but still do it safely and reasonably and in cost as well.
So it's not this. It's like, how deep do you put the
footings
in? Mm-hmm. That would be structural.
That's structural too. Yeah.
So I guess we need a lesson on what the difference is for those who might not know.
Yeah. So structural engineers are the ones who are the ones who design the structures for the buildings. They design like the foundations, for what the building sits on, the slabs, the walls, if it's concrete building, if it's a metal building, if it's a wood building, they're all different loads, different, what type of roof is there, they have to take all that into account when they did, design the skeleton of the building. They also design all sorts of other things. They can design bridges. They can, anything structurally, they can do it. Pads for large generators, or, anything that is concrete, that has steel, that needs to have a heavy load, they are designing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then civil?
And then civil is everything outside of the building. So everything 5 feet outside the building is what we do. So, we handle the grading and the drainage and like utilities, water, sewer, storm, gas, electric, dealing with all of those, trying to get services to the building because, the MEP engineers, they stop 5 feet outside of the building as well when they design, the electrical services or the, anything internal services. Everything outside the building, that's on us to make sure that we get it hooked up and coordinated with and on in time.
Okay. And you're licensed, registered, what is it? It's
Licensed as a professional engineer. Mm-hmm.
And how do you get one of those?
So you have to be, graduate from college, from an accredited university, and then you have to first take your fundamentals of engineering, which is like FE or an engineering intern. You take that test after you graduate. Then you have to work a minimum of 4 years under a licensed engineer. And then you're able to sit for your professional engineer. And then you have to be able to pass that exam before you become licensed.
And do you have to do continuing education
along
the way?
You have to do continuing education, I think 30 hours every 2 years.
That seems like a lot.
It's manageable. It's not a ton, but it's a, you got to stay on top of it and all of that. So, and then, you take that exam in the state that you're practicing in, and then you can always apply to different states. You have to be licensed individually in each state. So
to take a test for each
state? No, like California, I think they require a separate test because of earthquakes and all of that. A lot of them, you just have to do it by proxy. You have to fill out applications, submit your records that you have passed the exam and all of that, and then you can get licensed.
Pay a fee.
Always pay a fee. Yeah. So, I'm licensed in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas,
Okay.
So, but took the test in Oklahoma and originated it here.
Okay. So have you done work out in the other states?
Yep. Yeah. Have done a lot of work in all the different states. Yeah.
And I guess in Oklahoma, you get all those different terrains and stuff going to, like Arkansas is more mountains, I guess.
It is. It's all, it's all different, kind of, a little bit, but, Kansas is a lot flatter and, but it's all relative, into what you're trying to do.
So you need to know a little bit about soil composition.
You do. So, a lot of times you will hire a geotechnical engineer who they are the ones who study the soil. So a lot of times they will go out, they will do borings on your property and do tests on the soil. So then provide your report saying, hey, this is the soils we found, if we found groundwater or not. This is what we recommend for pavement, for your, foundation design. If you have water, we recommend a foundation drain, or, they're the ones who investigate that and then pass it on to us for us to, bring that into our design.
So it takes quite a team.
It does. It's not just one person.
So you need people skills.
You need people skills to be able to communicate. I am big on communication. You can't overly communicate. So.
And do they teach you that in
No.
college? No. You have to learn that as
something
you go.
You have to learn as you go. And it's hard for a lot of the young engineers to, when they come out of the school, I'm like, okay, you need to call the city, you need to ask this. And they're like, we have to call who? And we have to ask what? So, it just takes practice.
Yeah. So if you were just thinking about what you might want to do as a career, what would be some attributes or strong characteristics of someone that would be good at civil?
Yeah. Detail oriented. Definitely need to, be detail oriented. Be strong in math but want to, likes to create things, likes to design things. I really think one of the cool things of what we do is, you can drive around and you can see all your little thumbprints all around town or all around state saying, oh, I did this or I did this. And, being able to see your work is really, it's kind of cool. So.
Do you have a favorite one? Probably shouldn't say, but do you have a few favorite ones?
Well, I have an exciting one coming right now.
Okay.
Shields Boarding Goods out of North Dakota. They're coming into Tulsa. Just was announced, and we're tearing down the Sears building at Woodland Hills Mall, and we're replacing it with the new building for Shields, which is double the size of Sears. So every utility that serves the mall, we are hitting. So we're having to relocate all utilities and, trying to work around their building and their site and still keep all the access to the mall open and everything like that. So it's pretty cool. It's a big thing for Tulsa right now.
So does the firm itself compete? Is this a competitive process? I mean, how do you get selected to do
Well,
that?
there are principals, in the firm, and it's just, we usually put proposals out. If people come to us, it's not like they just come to Wallace, they come to, like Shields came to me through a recommendation, and we just put a proposal together and, work with them. So we have our different clients and, kind of stick in that area.
So it's not like a bid process?
No, not in the firm. I mean, sometimes we may provide a proposal to a client that they're getting a proposal from somebody else as well.
Okay.
So they're, but that's just part of it. There's plenty of people doing this work.
I know some architects, they do that. They have to submit competition.
No, we don't do that. Process. We try to be more, it's team oriented here. We don't want to, it's not cutthroat, and it's just, really whoever is the best for the project. There's some people who are, who lean more toward like the healthcare side, dealing with St. Francis and the large hospital campuses. That takes a breadth of knowledge for that. So, and then there's some that do more industrial or school work. So it's just, if there's a project that comes in, it's who's the best to work on it, who can, provide the best service to the client.
So, in a normal day, do you get here at 8 o'clock, or do a typical day for us?
Well, a typical day, I'm not as typical maybe as others, with two small kids, especially now back at school. I have, morning duty to get them up and going too. So a lot of times I'm up by 5. I'm on my computer by 5:36, get my emails, get my stuff started. Then I stop getting the kids, and then I get the kids up into school, and then I'm usually here by 9 at the latest. Okay. And then depending on what activities are going on, I might be here, till 4 and jet home, or I might be here later. I'm the mom who will be sitting in the back of a tumbling class with my laptop working while, I'm there watching my daughter tumble, or at a soccer field reviewing plans on the side of a soccer field while my son's at soccer practice. So I am very fortunate to work at a firm that allows the flexibility. It's definitely grown in the past couple of years with COVID to be more flexible. But it's also, I think, a good thing to keep women in an industry where, you have to be a mom first, and you have to be able to take care of your kids and make sure that they are to and from and what they want to do, but you still are able to do your career at the same time.
Finding that balance.
It's finding that balance. And a lot of times I'm back on my laptop at 9 o'clock after everything, and I might be wrapping up the day. So it's definitely, it's not just like from 8 to 5, but I've got a neighborhood meeting tonight up in Bartlesville at 6. So I know, it's going to be a late night for me as, tonight, but I may not get into the office till 10 o'clock tomorrow. So
it's more than a 40-hour week, but not a structured 40-hour week.
It is not structured. It's definitely not, not what I do, just because I'm navigating between meetings and family and stuff. It's definitely not structured, but it's usually 50 to 60 hours. Okay. But that's more on me than, it can be 40 hours. I'm just more of a go-getter, and I just want to do, I want to go after everything I can. So I do work more than probably some people.
Do you feel like you have to because you're a woman, or
sometimes I do. I feel like you need to, prove yourself. When I first started my career, I was the only female in the office, plus the receptionist, and I felt like I needed to prove myself, to work hard. Nobody ever made me feel different or that I had to do that. It was just kind of ingrained in myself that, hey, I can do the same thing. I would, when I first started, going on job sites, I would be catcalled. I would be by the workers, and, and there would always be that, that kind of, stuff. And you get used to it, but it's not there anymore. 20 plus years later, the whole industry has changed.
any idea about when the shift happened?
When it maybe, I would say probably 10, 15, at least 10 years ago or more. I've really, and I don't, maybe it's because there started to be more of us, or, it wasn't as unusual to have a female on the job site. But the cat calls and what would have stopped, that when you go out to this site, you definitely get the respect and the people listen, and, it doesn't, and then it might be, there might be females in the construction, out on the job site now too. So it's not like it's just all male. I mean, I can show up on a job site in a suit and skirt, and I will have my boots on because I have to have my boots on the job site, and people just laugh and shake their head, and they're like, there's Nicole. I have ruined so many pairs of heels and shoes because I would have to go out to a job site, and I would walk in something or break a heel or something when I'm walking through, and my husband would be like, can you please just keep boots in your car so we don't have to keep buying you new.
Well, I guess while we're there, we should talk about attire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's gotten a lot more casual, I think industry wide or society wise. When I first got out of school, it was definitely, you wore the slacks, you wore the blouses, you wore, the heels or the dress, the loafers and all of that, which would cause, then if you're going in and out between, job sites or whatever, it was always a lot harder for the girls to do it. Guys, it didn't matter if they had their dockers or slacks on, they could go out and, be a lot easier on a job site. And then when I worked at the architecture firm, we definitely dressed up and all of that. So that was, how to get used to, but navigated it through fine. But now that I'm back at an engineering firm, it's a lot more casual, and it's kind of like, hey, if you're going to be on a job site a lot, or, you need to just dress accordingly, be professional, but you don't have to wear the slacks. I wear jeans every day, and it's awesome. I might have a blazer on or something, but, it's a lot more casual now.
I guess if you're going to the city or to a board meeting,
I might dress up a little bit more. If I know they know when I walk in the office and I have slacks on, they're like, oh, you got a meeting today? I'm like, yep, I do. You just dress accordingly, and it works just fine. Or I might have something in the car that I might change into before I have to go someplace else.
So what kind of boots? Just not cowboy boots?
No, just, I just usually, just have, just ankle boots that you make sure that it's all sturdy and everything like that.
Rain gear, but
yeah.
Do you have a hard hat?
You have hard hats, and you have a safety vest, and all that. So that's in the back of my car at all times.
What other tools?
No, well, a lot of times you will want to have,
Your laptop.
Laptop, exactly. Always want to have some sort of measuring device on you. A lot of times you will trying to measure something like that, so, or a wheel. Sometimes, we have a wheel that we have to roll different distances, or, all that. We have that as well. So,
like a surveyor type.
We have in-house surveying. I never did well at surveying. I took surveying in college, and I was always the one who was writing down in the book. So when I had to do my final and I couldn't even set up the equipment, my TA just shook his head at me. I'm like, that's why I hire surveyors.
You know your limitations.
I know my limitations, and I'm not a good surveyor.
Well, how often do you have to go into like City Hall, that type of
stuff? Sometimes daily, at least once a week. I mean, yeah. So definitely, it's changed a lot since COVID. A lot of times things, instead of going in and meeting with people, everything is now virtual, virtual meetings, everything like that. But I'm in daily contact with, usually city, one city or the other, or a county or whatever like that.
So do you have to know the codes, or
have to know
where to find them anyway?
Yeah, have to know the codes, have to know, there's zoning codes, subdivision regulations, so the cities that we have to work in a lot of times, those a lot better, other ones you're like, oh, I need to look, at least know where to look to find the answer.
Computers have helped with that too.
Computers have helped tremendously.
I guess they've been in your work life from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, the internet was just starting, so it really wasn't the World Wide Web wasn't out there when I first started, so we still had a ton of manuals, a ton of, code books and everything like that, paper-wise, but it definitely has evolved, and today, you just get on the internet and just look everything up that way.
Okay. Well, I want to take a tangent here.
Yep.
Did you design your yard, your own yard? Make sure the water's right before you even or bought the house based on that?
Well, I always look at that, I do. We have a pond on our property. We live on some acreage, and it's not draining correctly. And so I was telling my husband, I was like, I think we need to do this, this, and this. And he's just like, oh no. He's like, this is how we need to do it. And my daughter turned to him. She's like, that's what she does for a living, right, Dad? Why aren't you listening to her?
Hey.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because a couple of years ago we replaced our driveway, and we have a really long driveway, and we replaced it with a concrete driveway. And my husband had hired the contractor, dealt with him, but he was installing it one day. I was working from home, and he wasn't doing the rebar correctly. And so I was watching him through the window, and I'm like, it's not right. You're spending all of this money to do, for this driveway. So I finally went out to him. I was like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. Your ground saturated. You really need to let this dry out before we pour the concrete. And he told me, he's like, you just don't worry your pretty head, ma'am. Just go inside and call your husband. I think smoke just came out of my ears. And I was just like, no. I was like, this is what I do for a living, and you will not be pouring your concrete today because you need to do this, this, and this. And he's just like, no, I'm dealing with your husband. So I had to go in, call my husband, and say, you need to tell this contractor that he needs to listen to me, or he will not be paid. And that was only like 2 years ago. I was not happy.
Well, how did the next meeting with that particular
And then
person
he asked me, he's like, well, what do I need to do? And I told him, he's like, yes, ma'am, I will do that now. So it's just, it's an unbiased, sometimes people just don't even think about it.
Yeah, he had to educate him.
I had to educate him that, even just because I'm a female, that, I still understand, concrete and rebar and dirt and soil too. So.
And would your dad have understood that?
No.
Part of it, since he was.
No, he was mechanical. So he did, he worked always in the oil and gas industry. So compressors and, all of that stuff that I don't understand. But, he would be able to spit off in a, minute.
So there's not much common ground to discuss with him?
No, not really.
Well, what did your mom do for a living?
She was a stay-at-home mom she took care of me and my brother, and once we, grew up, then she, went and become an admin, at different, companies. But she was, for the most part of my growing up, she was, taking care of us.
Well, did your dad insist on your brother doing engineering of some kind too?
He kind of learned his lesson a little bit with me, but my brother ended up in the construction industry. So, he and I are definitely, he builds what I design. So we have a lot of in common.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think your daughter would be interested in the type of work?
No, not at all. Not at this time. No. So, whatever she wants to do, I just told him, as long as y'all can support yourself, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
But, no, I think my son has my kind of brain of, thinking things through and being able to, even though Legos, we don't use Legos for building it still kind of gets your mind of creating things and, thinking things through. So he likes all of that kind of stuff and, working on his dirt bikes and everything like that. So he definitely has more of an engineering, mindset.
Mechanical, then
it might be mechanical, which is fine if he can get through it too, but whatever he wants to do. Yeah.
Is your husband an engineer?
No, he is a mechanic. So
he understands.
He understands. He can fix things. He can fix vehicles. He was in the Marines, and so learned how to work on large vehicles in the Marines. And when he got out, he's been a diesel truck mechanic since then. So
So you're a working mom, you manage, okay. Do you do anything over the weekend in order to get ready for the week?
Yes,
At least cook meals ahead or
I
something
do.
like that?
When I do my grocery shopping, I make a list of what we're going to eat every night. So I plan out the dinner. So we didn't know that. Sometimes I will, cook more, on Sundays to get ready. And it's just, keeping a schedule and just trying to stay, keeping the kids in line. And I probably work Sunday mornings or Sunday evenings for a couple hours, but it's flexibility. It's like I said, I'm not here 8 to 5. It's not like I just work this amount, these 40 hours. It's kind of just spread out whenever things need to get done or I have time to get to it.
Well, our gender seems to have to do, or historically have had to do most of that.
Yes. And, but I remember growing up, my dad always worked extra hours, never just, but when I was growing up, there wasn't even a personal really computer for the house, no laptops or anything like that. So he would come home, he would have dinner with us, then he would go back to the office, And so I remember growing up spending many evenings, at home with my mom and my brother because my dad was at the office, or Sunday morning he would get up and he would go to the office for a couple hours and do work and come home. So it always took him away from the house a lot. And so I've told my husband this, I'm like, well, at least I might be working this amount of hours, but I'm physically here, or I'm physically taking the kids to a practice, or I'm, at their class or whatever like that. So, if we're sitting around watching TV, I might have my laptop open, getting through emails and working, but I'm still there with my family, engaging and everything like that as well. Multitasking. Got to do that,
We get pretty good at that most of the time.
Yes, but it's just, you just have to decide what you want your life to be, and then work to make it that way.
So flexibility is
it's key.
Is key.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to your career. We're talking about your career. So we were up to your second job.
Yep.
Right. So then after that, what?
Well, after KKT, then I came here. Yep.
And that was during COVID. So
it was during COVID.
Let's talk about COVID.
It was at the start, really the start of COVID. It was May of 2000. And so I think COVID hit maybe March, I think, because the kids didn't go back after spring break.
Right.
And so, I was starting a new job in a new position with almost the whole office working from home. So I think that my first day here, there was only a handful of people in this office, so it was definitely difficult coming in, learning a new company, learning to manage people that weren't even in the same building as I was, that everybody was working from home, and navigating through that. That was tough. But, it got better, I think, within a year. And then navigating that plus kids at home doing homeschool, for almost a year. Yeah.
Well, you didn't switch jobs because of COVID.
No.
You just were ready for a change.
I was ready for a change, and I had made the decision right before COVID hit. So, yeah. So it was, I was like, why not?
I know.
Yeah. So it was, that Wallace is one of the top engineering companies in Oklahoma in the United States. And I have had friends here for a long time, and I was just ready for a change, and they welcomed me with open arms. So,
cool.
Yeah. So
your very first day was.
Oh yeah.
It was. Didn't have to worry about a parking place.
Didn't have to worry about a parking place. Didn't have to worry about remembering people's names because there wasn't that many people to even meet. Because for the most part, I think 90-95% of everybody was working from home.
So you picked up on Zoom pretty quick?
Picked up on Zoom, Microsoft
so names
Teams.
Are under there, so you
yes.
learn quick.
Yes. So it was definitely communication was key at that time too, especially when you're trying to get to know people, direct them, review things while everybody is sitting at their computer at their house, and trying to explain to them how you want things done instead of how maybe they were used to things being done. So it was definitely, it was difficult. And then not feeling, and it's hard because usually when you start a new job, you want to feel welcomed, you want to feel part of the environment. And there wasn't much of an environment to even be a part of because everybody was gone. So
how many do you supervise or you're in your team?
So, I mean, right now, about 5 or 6 on my team usually. So, and we have about, in civil in Tulsa, we probably have maybe 30, maybe up to 40. We've grown a lot. So, we've got a ton of work going on and a lot of activity. So, I mean, and after about a year, everybody came back to the office. So, it's been a lot better, I'm getting to know everybody, and our type of work, it's much easier to collaborate with people when they're sitting across a table from you. It's kind of hard to, if you're on a Zoom call and you'd be like pointing, you're like, can't you see my finger where I'm pointing on the screen? Just stuff like that, to be able to just sit down and talk through it, and teach the young engineers. It's hard to teach people when they're not sitting next to you too, and you can explain why you want things done a certain way or how we got to this point, kind of thing, so.
Do you have any younger females on your team?
We do. We have a ton of females here, and I love it. So I have an engineer who I brought with me from KKT. She's been with me for 5 or 6 years now, and she came with me over here, and we've hired a lot of new younger engineers that are female, and I think we're close to being balanced,
that's
50-50. So,
and you do anything special to retain them, to
Nope.
keep them?
I know everybody's philosophy is different on that, but I feel if we do something different or special for a female, then I think it brings a little bit of, maybe when people don't think of it differently, and then if you're doing something for this person, somebody else will be like, well, why are they special and I'm not? I just look at it as we're all one team. We're all engineers. We all have a common goal of doing the best work we can do. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, we're just here working together. And I just think if we all treat each other equally and talk to each other, the same way, that, I don't think we think of things differently.
So maybe flexibility is the key to keeping them.
Flexibility,
either side.
Yes, and I think we've talked a lot about that, on the leadership team, about how can we be flexible, because that is the one thing, with females, a lot of time, not all, because there are some men whose wives have a much demanding job, that they're the ones that have to handle it. We have one engineer, his wife's a doctor, so she's at the hospital or she's doing something, she can't be bothered. And so if a kid gets sick or, this and that, he's the one who has to be able to pick up, take his laptop home, pick up the kid and go home. And so every year it gets more and more where it's not always just the male that has, a job that, that can't be as flexible. So as long as we're flexible to everybody, then that allows everybody to have a much better work, home life balance that makes them happier.
It makes sense.
And it's, again, it sometimes it's the male, sometimes it's the female, but we're all in it together. And if we all understand, when you have kids or raising a family or anything, both the mom and the dad have to be able to, be flexible, take care of them.
Well, how many in this office?
Mm-hmm.
How many typically are employed in this particular office?
This office, I think we might be up to about 100.
Okay. Do you all get together at some point, or?
So
yeah.
Again,
yeah, good old COVID.
With COVID, it's kind of thrown it. So one of the things that this office does, it has a big open house right before Thanksgiving. It's an annual open house. Right before Thanksgiving every year, that allows friends, clients, past employees, everybody to come here, enjoy food, beverages, and see everybody. That hasn't happened since I've worked here. I've been told, I think we're doing it this year. So,
okay.
But started just having more lunches or some little get-togethers like chili cook-offs or stuff like that. So they're starting to activities start rolling back, but for at least 2 years, nothing. Everybody just kind of worked and tried to stay healthy.
I mean, in a normal times, would they, like, groups meet on a regular monthly or every 2
Yeah.
weeks, or?
I don't know if they
Okay.
do that. I mean, I know that with my team, I do meet with them at least once a month, one-on-ones, to just say, hey, how you doing? Anything come up? I want my team to feel like they can come and talk to me about anything. Is there something that I can do better for to help you in your career? What can I, do you have questions? Try to take them either for coffee or sometimes just lunches to, feel that they are valued. They are working, but I do value what they're doing for me and for the company as well.
Okay. And those are good people skills, I guess.
Mhm.
Come back to that too.
Yeah. So because everybody wants to feel valued.
Is there any in-house communication mechanism in place,
Not
like newsletters?
No, there is. Marketing does put out kind of like a virtual newsletter at least once a month for all of our offices.
Some of the things going on around.
Knowing around and everything like that. When I first started, it was mostly mostly males, and the communication just stunk. And I came in and I'm like, I over communicate probably more than they probably want to, but I'm like, y'all need to start communicating. I cannot read your mind, and we need to learn to tell me what you want or what you expect. And so that was a frustration for the first year or so here too, was just they couldn't communicate as well as what needs to be. So I feel we're doing a lot better.
Have you found that at the other places you've worked at?
Well, when I was at the architecture firm, we had the women were majority at the architecture firm. We were probably 70-30 or 65-35. A lot of estrogen going on there.
Oh, different set of problems.
Different set of problems, but the communication. So it was definitely, I went from there to here, and I was so used to the mindset there. And then I came here, and it was a hard adjustment, but we're getting there. So
making progress.
We are definitely making progress, and I push. I've got a strong personality, so I don't mind speaking up or pushing them a little bit too.
So over your career so far, have you had a couple of projects that you really liked?
One of the projects I'm proud of is the Discovery Lab out of the Gathering Place. It's the new children's museum.
I haven't been there. Okay.
It's fantastic. It's it's an extension of the Gathering Place, and we worked with a landscape architect out of New York City. But just the whole site development, trying to integrate it with the Gathering Place and Riverside. There was new zoning in place from the city where they wanted us to push the building up against the road. That's kind of the trend that everybody wants. They want it, kind of for more pedestrian access. Instead of having the road, a parking lot, then the building, they want the road, the building, and then have your parking lot tucked in the back. So we had to work through a lot with the city, with neighbors. There was floodplain on the property. We had to deal with the floodplain, but it's such an iconic place. When you drive down Riverside and the building's right there, it's pretty cool. And that was I think we from start to finish was maybe 5 or 6 years process. By the time we interviewed, won the project, and all of that, that was really cool. And another project that I'm proud of is Unit Corporation building down in South Tulsa. It was one of the first projects when I was with KKT that I went and interviewed with them. And it was the architects and then me, and we actually got the project because I sat at the end of the table with the CEO, and we talked about sanitary sewer lines and water lines. And he and I just had this connection, and we had the whole site almost figured out by the time the interview was over with. And we walked out of there when we got it. The owners were like, "We got that because of you," and so made me feel good that you know, I could bring value.
Sure. Did you get dinner that night?
Have had some dinners, but you know, it's a really pretty, it's a
bonus.
beautiful campus. It's a beautiful building down there. And it's, you know, it's neat to see that, you know, I was part of that as well.
Good.
Yeah.
So have you done any out-of-state ones that were rise to the top?
Rise to the top. A lot of times the out-of-state ones were with my clients like Quick Trip or, you know, Wendy's or Panera that, you know, it's my relationships that they were doing something out of state that needed the help. So nothing as exciting as some of the other stuff here, but you know, but part of business is your relationships. And when you have a client who's happy with you and they bounce around, you just kind of follow with them and do their work wherever they need them.
So beyond Shills, what's next on your?
There's a few things going on I can't talk about.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, so there's some exciting large commercial developments we're looking at right now that are, you know, not out for public knowledge yet, but some exciting stuff still going on, you know, around Tulsa.
Well, do you have like a specialty area? Is it considered retail or industry or what?
I do all. I mean, retail and schools. I've done a ton of schools, and I really enjoy schools. You know, the school my kids go to, I actually designed it when I was at KKT. So that was probably cool. One of the most special projects because my kids were there from start to finish. You know, if we had snow days, sometimes they would come to the construction meetings with us. You know, when we were under design, my son, he might have been 5th grade or 4th, maybe it was 4th grade. He told the superintendent, Rob Miller, he's just like, so who's designed this, you know, playground? And Rob's like, well, we haven't gotten that far yet. He's like, Jackson's like, you need to put a committee together. And he's like, well, that's a really good idea, Jackson. And so he actually, we formed a committee of kids, and Jackson and Addison were able to go, and we had tried we went around Tulsa, and they went and played on all these different playgrounds, and then came back and said what they liked, what they didn't like, and helped design the playground for their new school. And so that was pretty cool. And the first day that we were able to, you know, when the school opened, what was it, 3 years ago now? When they went in, the principal, you know, told Jackson's class, Jackson's mom was the one who helped design this building. But they, you know, but they knew the building, you know, they were able to, you know, at the beam signing, they were able to sign their names on the beam when it was under construction. You know, they were there at the groundbreaking when they were able to move, you know, and then when at the, you know, ribbon cutting, they were there too. So that was pretty special. You know, it was pretty fun.
They understand what mom does.
And they understood a little bit, you know, and they would come on. They had their own hard hats at the trailer where they, you know, when they came, they were able to walk the building and check it out, and always, you know, had that as well too.
What's the name of the school?
It was Bixby West Elementary and Intermediate. So
I don't know if I've been to Bixby.
Yeah, so we love it, but that was pretty special. They were, you know, from start to finish, that they were part of it, and it was their school, you know, going in.
They understood the process, or at least
they did. They saw it a little bit more, or, you know, they had to come to meetings. They're like, oh my gosh, are you still in a meeting? I'm like, yes, this is what I do most of the day. But they understood it, and they could see, you know, the process of construction, and see, you know, the grading, and then when the building started coming up and paving, and, you know, they got to see all of it.
And mom can play in the dirt sometimes.
Exactly. So. Mom can play in the dirt, and Jackson got to ride move some dirt around in a vehicle, and he thought that was cool. And yeah. And so I was really proud of him when he thought of making his own little committee for the playground. So I thought that was, and when the superintendent took him up on it, I thought that was great.
Well, then he may be in poli-sci.
He might be. He can talk. He wheels and deals a lot. But you never know.
Well, you've been in it, what, 20-something years now?
Yep.
How long of a career do you think you'll
do it? I don't know. I love it.
I haven't think of that yet.
Yeah, I haven't really. No, I love it. You know, I would think probably at least another 20 years. You know, so.
And when you walked across the stage in Columbia, did you figure you'd be?
No, I honestly, I was probably very ill prepared for the real world when I walked across the stage. So,
because you had interned?
I hadn't interned. I hadn't done any of that. I'm very pleased of where my career has led me to. So, yeah.
Well, if you're giving advice to other
Mhm.
youngsters, you would say do internships.
I would highly recommend doing internships. You know, you can always have fun, you know, but internships I think is key, and definitely different types of offices to find out what do you really like. You know, because I did not like what I first started doing, you know, but instead of giving up, I just kept trying and finding, and I found my slot of what I, you know, in the civil engineering world where I fit and where I really like, and I think I thrive. But definitely, you know, communicate and to try things out. And internships are, you know, I think very good for college students.
Did you have a mentor, or do you have some influential person in your career that's, you know, giving you advice or kind of steered you along the way?
Not really. I feel like I've kind of, you know, navigated it a lot. My first, you know, boss, he gave me the room to grow. You know, he definitely allowed me to take on what I wanted to take on. He didn't hold me back. You know, he's like, hey, if you want to do it, go for it. You know, I'll be here to support you, you know, and I really had that kind of go-getter attitude of, you know, how much can I pile on? How much can I prove to you that I can do this kind of thing? But I've always just kind of, you know, just pushed to see how much I can do, you know.
Well, if you have a problem that you can't figure out, is there someone you?
There is, you know, it's nice here because there are, you know, seasoned engineers here, and so I do have a, you know, Darren Burns who brought me over. You know, he's my biggest supporter here, and I know if I ever need something, you know, or have a question, he's always there to, you know, help me out or walk through something with me or anything like that.
It's good to have someone like that.
It is. It's always good to know that you have somebody, you know, you have a cheerleader in your back pocket.
So you mentioned floodplain a little bit earlier with your discovery place.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'm a certified floodplain manager, and what that entails is you take a week-long class that's presented by the state, and then you take a test at the end. And a lot of and floodplain management is more of dealing with FEMA and the regulations and building and the different types of floodplains and knowing how to navigate construction through that and building through that and how that affects the end user and what type of insurance they will have to do. You know, a lot of times people don't realize that, hey, if you develop this site, if there is any floodplain on the property, it doesn't even have to be close to the, you know, if you have a 10-acre tract, your house is way here and you might have a little bit of floodplain down here in your property. If you have floodplain touching your property, you have to carry floodplain insurance. And that's a couple $1,000s extra a year. And if, you know, and that's for every single lot. And so if people don't realize that developing or whatever, it can really hit them at the end or, you know, and so things like that of, hey, how can we navigate around this? What can we do to mitigate the risk for this developer? You know, still respect the floodplain, still respect FEMA and all of that. But what can we do to, you know, help the developer too at that as well?
And Tulsa being with rivers nearby.
Yes, there's a ton. You know, and Tulsa is number one. Well, there's two number ones in the, you know, tied number ones in the country for floodplain management, and Tulsa's one of them. You know, after the floods in the 70s, you know, and then the 84 flood, which wiped everything out, Tulsa really changed their mentality of what they're going to require for detention and everything like that, and impeding into the floodplain and for development and everything. And they're one of the strictest ones in the country for development.
Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, there were flood. Was it Arkansas?
Yeah, the Arkansas River flooded, you know, but it was a controlled flood, and it didn't really, you know, and it impacted areas that you knew were going to be flooded, you know, so it wasn't like it was catastrophic. It was it was catastrophic to, you know, some of the, you know, residents who houses flooded, but it was areas that was in the floodplain, they knew it was going to flood, and all of that. And the city's still working on grants and other plans to keep buying out houses, mitigating the floodplain so that it won't,
reclaim it
and all of that. And so they're working heavily on that. Tulsa's gotten really big into the past 20 some years about regional detention ponds. When you design a site, when you have a site that's just bare ground, there's a certain amount of water that's running it off on existing conditions, right? And when you come in and you develop it and you put pavement and you put a building and all that, you're increasing the runoff, because the runoff from concrete is much higher and faster than what the runoff from a grass is. And so we're required by state statute that your runoff from your site has to be at or below what your existing condition is. So anything that you increase due to your development, you have to hold on your site in a detention pond and release it at a slower rate. And so that's that's one of the things we have to work through. Well, we have all these little sites and people doing that. Not everybody maintains their ponds accordingly. The city doesn't have as much control over all these smaller ponds. Throughout the years, people might fill them in, break them out, even though they're not supposed to, but you don't have as much control. So the city has gone in and looked at these large drainage basins and built large regional detention ponds so they can handle the detention for this area of the town and mitigate it and, and hold it back, and then not have to rely on everybody's individual, lots to do what they're supposed to be doing.
It takes extra time and extra money.
It's extra time and extra money, but it has taken Tulsa to the top of floodplain management, where they can control it a lot better. They're used as soccer fields. They're if you're driving down the highway and if you see a soccer complex in the bottom of them, that's what it is. It's a regional detention pond. But most of the time it won't be holding water, because it's only in the in the storm events that it will be.
It's when they're near my house.
Yeah.
I have seen it a foot underwater too.
Yes, but it's doing its job, and it's doing, and the city is able to manage it a lot better. They can do the maintenance, they can control what happens to it, and and all of that, and they're able to design for the fully developed areas.
Well, is that test a difficult one to pass?
Yes, it is. But it's good. It's not as difficult as the PE, but it's still difficult. You have to learn, a lot of the, the criteria, and it's a lot of the, FEMA regulations and stuff like that.
You don't have to do math problems to figure out how much.
No, not usually. It's more like if you're in zone A and you want to build, what do you have to do? And it's a lot of learning the regs.
So you have to learn those, keep up on those as well as Tulsa.
Yeah.
And then state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're being a lawyer in some ways, huh?
It kind of feels like it sometimes. I mean, like, when you start getting into all the planning, and you feel like sometimes you're a real estate attorney sometimes. But, a lot of aspects to learn.
Yes. Are you involved with, do you spread the gospel, so to speak, on being a civil engineer out there?
I try. I do, I go and I speak at the different, when schools have different programs or the STEM events, I go and I speak to the groups when I'm invited to about being an engineer, and, you can still have a life and you can still be cool and still be an engineer, kind of thing. But, I try to be, and I also am involved in two nonprofits in Tulsa, that are for women coming out of prison, and then women who are homeless, and providing places for women to live and to reclaim their lives and reclaim their children and everything like that. So it's it's part of, and then just being a service to my community as well.
Keeps you humble.
It does. And I bring my kids involved. My kids come and volunteer. We donate. We do all that, and they they can see that not everybody has it as good as we do, and it's our job to, make the world better that we want it to be, and I really think that women are the core of society. If you have a good, stable mother, if you have a good, happy, mother, that it trickles down to their kids and to the society of that way too.
See that? So your mother was that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And how about your grandparents?
Yep.
Grandmother?
They were all very strong women. My dad's mom and his great aunt, they were nurses and very, strong-willed, strong, women that they don't take no for an answer. And I guess that trickled down.
Okay, so maybe you got that trait.
I might have gotten that trait, but yeah. So, but yeah, I just never thought once, that I couldn't do anything I did. And there was nothing in the world that I couldn't do.
So, if you had a goal to do, what's your dream thing to accomplish, work-wise?
Work-wise,
yeah.
Like to have a part of ownership in a company.
Is that what they call it, the principal?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be a principal, you have to
be invited.
Be kind of like a law firm,
Mm-hmm.
firm then.
Yep. So,
that makes you a partner, similar. The principal and partner.
Yeah, principal and partner. So right now, I believe there are 27 principals here at Wallace. There's 3 of them that are women. So,
Didn't work on that. There's some room then.
There's some room. There's some room to grow.
Well, how long does it normally take to get to that?
It takes people years. There's, some people who work here 10, 15 years before they have the opportunity. So I just try to do my best and, hope for the opportunity will prevail itself one day.
So they have to invite
Mm-hmm.
you. It's not something you can campaign.
No, well, for. I mean, that's not me. Maybe some people campaign, but I put my head down and I do my work and I let my work and my billing speak for me.
And as a principal, would your salary be different, be higher?
It would be, you buy in, so then you would have dividends,
Okay.
kind of thing like that.
Yeah, I kind of figured that might be.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. So that's something to aspire.
That's something to aspire, and I was just talking to my husband the other night, and he's just like, "Well, once you get that, what's your next goal?" Because I always have a goal, and I'm like, I don't know, but I haven't hit that yet, so I don't know.
Be invited to design what? What's your big design?
I don't know. I was like, I just want to be one of the most, respected engineers in Tulsa. If somebody says, hey, who, if somebody was coming in from out of state, be like, who do you recommend? And I hope I would be at the top of the list of, to be recommended.
So you're inching your way that way?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I'm up there. So, it's just part of working hard and being respectful and, trying to be a team player. So,
well, competition-wise in the Tulsa area, I mean, are there roughly how many other companies?
Engineering firms?
Yeah, I have no clue.
I don't know. I mean, there's, there might be 20, but a lot of times a lot of the engineering firms, some of them do the roads, the road projects and bridges. Some of them do like we do. We do a lot of the site development work, and there's some that are environmental. They're all kind of specialized, just kind of like how we are.
Well, I guess some people may go out of state to hire their.
Yeah.
Is it actually called a firm, or is it called something else?
A firm. Yeah.
Okay.
We're licensed in every state, and we have 7 offices right now, so we're able to work anywhere in the United States.
So have you spent much time in any of the other offices?
No, not yet.
Not needed to.
No, I've gotten to know Oklahoma City a little bit, just with some work and some people over there, but haven't got to know a lot of the other ones yet.
Okay. So at the end of COVID's not over yet, so we can't ask that, can we? Has it impacted you in any other way? The COVID part.
I mean, the good thing with COVID, with a lot of the COVID funding, has increased our work with the tribal work right now is just astronomical. Part of the COVID funding was millions upon millions of dollars for tribal work.
To do what?
They are building infrastructure. They are investing into their communities. They are building all these community centers, resources, doctors' offices, all these services I think one of the tribes got like $200 million, you know, so that has been keeping us very busy on that. You know, another good thing about COVID is it has allowed us to be more flexible in our work environment. You know, pre-COVID, we didn't have all the tools and resources to be able to work remotely as well. And so we all have had to navigate that, you know, figure out how to do it, you know, be able to have a lot more, you know, team meetings or Zoom meetings or whatever, or be able to just say, hey, I'm working, you know. But so now, 2 years later, if somebody needs to work at home, or if somebody, you know, needs to stay home for a week or something, they can still work, you know. It's not like they can't do anything kind of thing. And so I think that has helped us, you know, allow it to be a little bit more flexible. We did have some fight trying to get people back to the office after.
That's happened everywhere, yeah.
Yes, you know, and trying to be respectful, but still go, we work so much better with you guys here, or, you know, trying to find a balance where, you know, their needs are taken care of, but ours are too. And I know everybody is dealing with that, you know, and trying to make sure that people are still engaged. And, you know, because another thing with COVID, you know, once you start working remotely, it's so much easier to jump from job to job because you're not as invested as when you're sitting beside a person every single day.
I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you know, because, you know, I've known some friends whose offices have completely shut down. You know, they're like, we're getting rid of the, you know, office leaves, and everybody's just going to work from home now. And I was like asking them, going, well, how do you keep everybody engaged? You know, how do you make people feel like, you know, that they're part of this team? And they're like, we're still trying to figure that out. You know?
And then some people have issues with connectivity.
Yep. So, you know, and then a lot of people got really used to dressing a lot more casual during COVID, and coming back and going, okay, we're still in, you know, still in a business, and need to figure out, you know, how that works too.
So you've had to have some of those conversations.
So. But, you know, it's just part of it.
People testing their limits.
They are. You know, it's, you know, everybody's mindset the past 2 years is just completely changed.
Well, when they first started coming back, were you required to wear masks? Do you remember?
I think we were. No, I take that back. We were not. We said if you wanted to, you know, we have some, our workstations are kind of spread out. So, you know, it was recommended that when you get up into public areas to wear the mask, you know, and all of that, but couldn't force it kind of thing.
I noticed one of the doors had masks required or suggested.
Yeah, maybe suggested, but yeah, so it was, you know, it was definitely, you know, discussion for that for a while.
Okay, I mean, it was like us too, we had to do that.
Yeah.
Gradually down.
Yeah. I'm glad it's gone. Well, the mask requirement's gone.
So certification wise, is there something next that you can shoot for?
I don't think so. I mean, I have no goals for getting my master's. I really don't want to go back to school.
But you like teaching, though.
I do like teaching, so maybe something like that, you know, but I mean, I think right now I'm just trying to keep my head above water, and, you know, just doing good work is my goal right now.
Keeping the kiddos
in line and keeping, you know, the whole family steering in the right direction, and, you know, all of that.
It's been a good choice. Good choice all along, huh?
I think so. You know, it definitely, you know, it's so hard when you're like 18, 19 years old and go, I've got to choose something that I'm going to do for the rest of my, you know, possibly do for the rest of my life, you know, and be happy with it. So,
well, knowing what you know now, what would you tell that 18-year-old you, 17-year-old?
I would have probably told her to go do what she wanted to do. Say, you know,
if you had gone that route, what did you envision yourself doing?
I wanted to, politics. I loved, you know, I was really thinking of like Georgetown, DC area, I guess that's why I enjoy working with all the boards and commissioners on my end. That's part of it. But, keeping up with the laws and the new, all this elections and different, stuff like that. But
it seems like what you do now would be more exciting because a little bit diverse.
Yeah.
Activity. You don't do the same thing day in and day
exactly.
out.
No, I mean, it is like I said, this has gone someplace that I never expected it when I was 21 graduating from college, that where I would be. So I'm definitely happy with where I've figured out.
All right. I think that pretty much covers mine, unless there's something you think we need to. Your support systems, your husband, I suppose, and your mom and dad.
Yes. No, I couldn't do what I do without Jason supporting me.
And Leadership Tulsa, I read somewhere you had done that.
I did that. I did Leadership Tulsa maybe 4 or 5 years ago. No, 6 years ago now. It definitely opens your eyes to community, to how other people look at things, how to communicate. One of the biggest things I learned was if you don't understand or don't agree with somebody, instead of getting upset, you need to step back and listen more and listen to them. And I think that's part of leading, and is just, it's always good to listen to people and to everybody's got different opinions, everybody's got different ideas, and there's never just one good way to go to do something. So it's always make people feel valued, listen to them, and find a way to, to where you need to be. And it might not be the path I decided, but if we can get to the same place, then that's all that matters.
And how did you learn that? I mean, you didn't learn it in college, you said.
No,
so you just
it's just part of life, and
being observant yourself.
I'm very observant. People laugh at how observant I am. I can order a few people's lunches in the office just from going out so many times. I can tell you one person wants water with no ice, one person will not eat cheese. Well, I mean, I'm a little too observant, but it's a good thing for me, So, and it's just trying things and just being thrown into situations and just taking things and and just trying.
Well, do you read much? I mean, it's like business trade.
Yeah. So we had an associates meeting a couple months ago, and we were going around the table about what everybody was reading. And everybody was talking about all the good stories and books they were reading, and I said, I read trash. I read the trashy romance novels because my brain is working all the time at home and with the kids. And so if I'm going to sit down and read a book, I want it to be fun and exciting.
Not business related.
Not business related at all. So,
well, so how do you keep up with what's going on in the business world? In your world?
Just,
or your CEUs probably.
Doing all that and just, trying to keep up, and, the CEUs are a good way to do it and all of that. But everybody needs a break once in a while. Yeah.
I guess you read the local newspaper to see what building's going on.
It is. Well, it's constant communication. When you're at meetings, you're talking to people about what's going on, what's the next thing, and, just kind of keeping, eye on the newspaper, eye on the news, and keeping your ear to the ground when you're at City Hall about what's going on.
And keep your network.
Keep it the network. Lunches, happy hours, coffees, It's always good to have friends in all these different areas of
being a former bartender, you could come up with some recommended drinks.
There you go. Yes.
Suggested.
There, yes. So, no.
All right.
Okay.
Then. My last question then I usually ask people is, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a good. Well, I would hope that, that I would be, people think of me as a good person, that I'm hardworking, but that I definitely try to do the best for everybody, that I'm thoughtful and caring.
And a go-getter.
And a go-getter.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing this with us.
Yes, absolutely.